Hi there, I am the Reverend Danny Crosby, a Unitarian minister serving congregations in Altrincham and in Urmston in the northwest of England. And I offer this devotion as a balm for the heart, for the mind, for the spirit, and for the soul. And it's titled, Get the Balance Right, Seesaw Margery Door. I recently had the pleasure of meeting a newborn baby, Eileen, and yes, I did sing the song. In fact, I sang her a few songs. I've been singing her songs all week. You know, the usual nursery rhymes like Rock-a-bye baby and all the pretty little horses and Verajaka and Twinkle Twinkle Little Star and the Cradle Song and so many, many more. And actually I've spent quite a bit of time this week with recording some nice little voice notes singing these classic nursery songs. I have enjoyed it immensely. I hope Eileen has or will eventually too. I also bumped into a woman, Eloise Williams, who grew up at one of the congregations I served a couple of times actually in the last couple of weeks, a few times with her two twin daughters. She tells me they're 6 months old now, and they've already developed their own unique personalities. She pushes them around in a kind of double pram, one on top of the other, kind of like a mobile bunk bed really. I've noticed that the top child is always happy and smiling, while the baby below, always whenever I meet them, is always crying. But I've also noticed that as soon as I start to talk to her, she starts being happy and smiley again, especially if I sing. I've always been a bit of a baby whisperer. Apparently my voice is calming, soporific apparently. I hope you've not already fallen asleep listening to this. It's fascinating though to see these two personalities developing. I wonder what their lives will be like. They seem an interesting balance of a happy, jolly child and another one that seems to be crying a lot. Why this is hard to know. I don't think it's got anything to do with the positions in the pram. I suspect it's just that some of us need more soothing than others. Apparently, I was a baby that cried a lot. Anyway, all this got me pondering, as life always gets me pondering. You're having to listen to my pondering now. I hope you stay awake. I hope my voice isn't too soothing. On Tuesday morning, I was out with Molly in the park. I was enjoying her joy, although I was interrupted many times by phone calls. And as I walked into the park with her, I passed the play area and I noticed the seesaw. And the seesaw brought me back to another one of those children's classic songs. And I found myself singing that classic seesaw song. I've been singing it all week. I think you must know it. Seesaw, Margery door, Johnny shall have a new master. He shall earn but a penny a day, because he can't work any faster. And it goes on and on and on and flows on. Do 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 be do boo 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 be dee dee boo be dee doo boo. I thought about the joy of the seesaw. You know, it's a game you can't play alone. You need someone else to play the game. It's a game that's about moving constantly from one side to the other. It's a game in which equilibrium, perfect balance, can never be reached. You go up and down like life. It's a game of energy, weight and motion. When was the last time you played on a seesaw, I wonder? And you know, it's actually, when you think about it, it's a strange kind of nursery rhyme. It's thought that the rhyme actually has its origins as a saw's work song, and as they would work in pairs and therefore they would pull one side to the other and encourage the other to go faster and faster and faster, thus mimicking the seesaw. It's thought that the word door in it, Margery door, was considered a lazy person in this time. Think of the dormouse, asleep in Alice in Wonderland. So actually it didn't start out as a nursery rhyme at all. It was a work song, really, instilling that classic Protestant work ethic. Make us work harder and faster. But life is about movement. Life is about moving all the time. We're always in some kind of motion. And being stuck in anything is not the way to live. There's something wonderful and beautiful about rhythmical movement, like the flow of life. And there's something in moving with another person as well, like a dance really, rather than just moving alone. When we move together, we awaken something in each other, like singing to a baby awakens something in the baby as it does in the singer. There's as much joy for those singing to a baby as in the baby's response. Certainly there is for me. It's one of my greatest pleasures in life, actually. I love to sing to babies and children. I love to sing, I know that, but there's something about it, really. So we can't really be balanced statically. Movement enables us to balance, really. It brings us to life. But life isn't all about movement. There is a time for rest. There is a time to not be working. There is a time to be dormant, actually. It can be something corrosive in our humanity just to think this Protestant work ethic, to be working constantly, all the time. As the old saying goes, all work and no play makes Jack a very dull boy. And I think that's why I love singing to folks so much. It's kind of playfulness to me, flirtatious you may say. And it's also encouraging, like it is to a little child. But that balance between work and play and joy and seriousness is very difficult to maintain. In fact, it can't be maintained, a perfect equilibrium. It's constantly on the move, checking and balancing once again. I wonder if there's ever perfect balance, equilibrium in life. It seems to me that everything is always moving. Perfect balance cannot be achieved, is never achieved, and maybe it's better that way. You can never get the balance right. To quote that, another 80s pop song, there you go, another one from Come On Eileen, to get the balance right. By the way, if you ever look into Depeche Mode's lyrics to that song, they're this sermon done in a simpler form. They have a good listen to it. Get the balance right. And this time of year is a kind of the season of celestial and seasonal balance, really. And it's a perfect one to check out the balances in our lives. Where are the extremes in our lives that need to be balanced, evened out? How do we see ourselves? How do we see each other? Is this in balance? Do we have a balanced view of life itself? When looking at ourselves, do we have a balanced and honest view of ourselves? Is something out of kilter? How are our humeurs, as those ancient physicians used to call them, all the four fluids of life that need to be in balance? Or to translate that into a more modern day understanding, how is your health, your physical, your emotional, your mental and your spiritual health? These four modern day humeurs, if you like. Now, physicians no longer believe in that we have four fluids in our lives, coloured fluids that need to be in balance. But we do need to get our lives in balance. There is a need for some form of stability, some kind of balance to get the balance right. A balanced life is considered the good life. We are told we need to balance the books in the home and in the community. A balanced diet is vital to healthy living. Power needs to be balanced in the public sphere. Too much power in an individual or in any group's hands is very, very dangerous. That needs to come into balance too. We need balance to perform physical activities. I was never very good actually at walking in a straight line or balanced on something really. That's why I was not an athlete, because most athletes are admired as much for their balance as their strength and their speed. It's key actually to doing those tasks well. Balance is seen as vital by virtually all the spiritual and philosophical traditions. Extremes in any sense lead to danger and can lead to destruction. As Robert Fulgham advises in more recent times, be aware of wonder, live a balanced life. learn some and think some and draw and paint and sing and dance and play and work every day some. And that great one of the fathers of modern philosophy, John Locke, wrote, "An excellent man like precious metal is in every way invariable. A villain like the beams of a balance is always varying upwards and downwards." But we're entering the season of balance. This coming Wednesday, the 20th of March, is the Spring Equinox, the day when light and dark are in balance. Happens twice a year actually, both in the autumn and the spring, for equinox means equal night. The day is as long as the night. The March equinox is known as the vernal equinox, meaning new, as it marks the beginning of spring. Spring is here. I see the cherry blossom starting to appear. In the northern hemisphere, as we tilt toward the sun, the days grow longer and the days grow sunnier. The September equinox is called the autumn equinox, marking the beginning of the autumn season. In the southern hemisphere, of course, these seasons are at the opposite ends of the year. The balance of this sphere that we live on. So we're about to enter the season of equinox, and some believe there are magical properties to the equinox. Many stories in all kinds of cultures speak of these magical qualities. And there's a lovely, interesting, mind-blowing one from China. According to Chinese legend, for an hour before and an hour after the equinox on Li Chun, the day when spring begins, it is said it becomes possible to balance things that otherwise it would be impossible to balance. On this day, it's said that for a short time you can even balance an egg. As gravity is perfectly in balance, it is said in this time. Now, apparently this mythos received a great deal of publicity in the 1940s. Even Einstein commented on it. It is said that the city of Chongqing, many such egg standings took place around this time. It was recorded, apparently. It seems this wasn't just a trick, an illusion. Because the truth is, if you find the right egg and the right kind of surface, it is possible to have an egg upright at any time of the year. But they kind of played a kind of April Fool's trick on us just before April Fool's Day. And eggs, that's what this time of year is about, isn't it? Eggs, new life, fertility, new babies, new beginnings. This is spring. And I was talking about eggs on Tuesday morning again. It was a busy day Tuesday. How much, to a chef friend of mine, I think I was trying to get them to cook me some actually. I was telling them how much I love poached eggs. I was definitely trying to get them to cook me some. How do you like your eggs, by the way? I prefer poached eggs. The best eggs I ever had in my life was when I won a night at the Ritz a few years ago, and the poached eggs there were as close to divinity as I've ever reached. I think they were just incredible. And all this thought of eggs got me thinking about yolk and balance. The image of eggs standing up and their life-sustaining centres, the yolk and the balance. There are references to yolk, and I know it's a different kind of yolk, so it's just the way I like to leap around. See how my mind works? There are references to yolk in the Bible, and about balance really. The yolk, it's talking about this balancing of the yolk and holding things, restraining things, keeping things in balance so that they can work through life. About teamwork, cooperation, it's about discipleship. So of course it's there. But it's not just in the Christian tradition. One of the meanings of the word yoke in yoga is union, similar really, derived from the Sanskrit word yuj, meaning to yoke. When oxen are yoked, they must work together for a common purpose. In contemporary yoga, the union is often described as a process of integrating the body, the mind, and the spirit. Makes me think of those umares that need to be in balance again. Getting the balance right. Get the balance right. And Yoko, when I was thinking about babies again, Yoko got me thinking about parenting qualities. Parenting qualities and newborn babies, and how equilibrium is so vital to a newborn baby. When I think of the yoke of Jesus, that's what comes to my mind actually, this parenting ideal. This love, this ideal of pure love, a love that is gentle and humble, close to the ground, very earthy, very centred in the ground of all being. A tender love like the love of a mother for her child, or a father with his baby in his arms, or a grandparent and a close friend guiding the child. This is the yoke of Jesus, really. It's a love that comes alive in relationship. A baby needs to find rest, needs to find comfort, needs to find care, needs to find protection, and it needs light-heartedness, something that fills its heart lightly. And are we any different? I think we're always babies in that sense. We need that kind of loving yoke, all of us, and it needs to be balanced in the right way too. Again on Tuesday, when I was out in the park, a friend called me talking about the stresses he was going through caring for his mother, who was in her 90s and coming close to the end of her life. What he said to me though, as we got through the conversation, that it was his turn to look after her. His mother had always been there for him. And he was remembering a time 20 years or so ago when she would travel halfway down the country to keep him alive, literally. She kept him alive. She would travel down to care for her son. She was the light in the dark of his life at that time. And now, as she enters the twilight of her life, it's his time to return the favour. And isn't there a beautiful balance here too? I wonder if he sings her songs around her hospital bed. I hope he does. Maybe I'll record some for them. Maybe. Life balances itself out, but it requires us to play the seesaw game with it, to play our role in getting the balance right. Balance, perfect balance, is hard to achieve. In fact, it's impossible. We never get perfect balance. It isn't a constant, static state of being. It's moving all the time, like a seesaw constantly moves from one side to the other. So the balance comes in the movement itself. It's never static, perfectly balanced. It's just not the nature of life. Life is moving constantly. And maybe that's something to think about really as we enter this time of year, this season of spring, as we move towards Easter, to develop, maybe we should think about ways to develop a new kind of equinox in our own lives. Perhaps this is what we need to give birth to in this springtime of the year. In the springtime of the year, silver buds of hope appear. Maybe this is the new hope. Wouldn't that be a perfect Easter egg when the day of rebirth of new beginnings come? This yoke of love and balance. This time of celestial and seasonal balance is a perfect time to check out the balances in our own lives. Where are the extremes in our lives that need balancing out? How are our humeurs, as the ancient physicians call them? Are they in balance? How is your health, your physical, your emotional, your mental and your spiritual health, those four aspects of ourselves? Our modern day humeurs, really. Have we got them in balance in our lives? Aristotle proposed that the key to authentic happiness and not momentarily satisfaction and pleasure arose from living a life of virtue, and this could be achieved by something what he called the doctrine of the golden mean, by living a centered life on a sort of dampered down equilibrium. He believed that virtue lays in avoiding excess. He saw courage as lying somewhere between cowardice and recklessness, that this was true courage. And this is illustrated perfectly in that ancient, so well-known Greek mythos of Icarus. You remember Icarus, who flew too close to the sun? Icarus was advised by Daedalus to fly somewhere between the sun and the sea. He needed to take off, but he needed to fly not too close to the sun, but he flew too close to the sun. And he perished. Centuries later, didn't Goldilocks reject the porridge that was too hot and the porridge that was too cold for the one that was just right? He found some kind of equilibrium in between the two extremes. Examples of following the virtuous life. But it's not just something that's done alone. It's done in harmony. It's done in relationship with life, with others, with ourselves, with God. Four more things that need to be in balance to be living all right. These kind of relationships are vital. Life is built upon relationships. It's the key to everything, but they need to be in balance to ensure that our lives are in balance in these 4 key relationships, that our relationships are in balance, are not unbalanced. So how are your 4 relationship umers? With yourselves, with each other, with life, with God? Are they in balance? Have you got to get the balance right here too? It's key, you know. So we need to check in this season of equilibrium, in this season of balance, how are you in relation to your inner self, the people you share your life with, the life in which you live and breathe, and your God? However you understand God, how are your relationships? Have you got the balance right? And thinking back on relationships, isn't that what's so vital to babies, to young children? Relationship, trust. When we are most vulnerable, we have to trust what's there to take care of us. We need to trust those who love and care for us. It's the same at the beginning of life, and it's the same at the end of life, and often in the middle of life too. We need to feel that we can rest easy in their yoke, and that they can rest in ours when the time of need is there. We need to trust in those who care for us, and we need to be people who can be trusted by those who need our care, who depend upon our care. But that kind of love and care needs to be in balance too. It's not all about just giving and taking care of others. Sometimes we all need to be cared for. We need to get that balance right too. But this kind of balance is never static. It's always moving like a seesaw, up and down, up and down. We rock back and forth. A bit like that other nursery rhyme. And a nursery rhyme I've been thinking of ever since I met little Eileen the other day. I recorded it for her actually, that lovely rock-a-bye baby on the treetop. When the wind blows, the cradle will rock. When the bough breaks, the cradle will fall, and down will come baby, cradle and all. Let's hope not, eh? Let's keep things in balance so that things don't fall apart. So let's step forward into spring, but let's do so gently, loving and lovingly, caring for one another and allowing others to care for us too. With our love so gently balanced, moving forwards, backwards and forwards and up and down, sustained by that ever-loving yoke, being held in that loving embrace, keeping us moving. So let's rest together in the yoke of life, that life-sustaining love that will take care of us. Amen. I'm going to end with some final words of blessing. You know, we need to bless more, and we can all bless. We bless when we give ourselves wholeheartedly to life. So some words of blessing. May the Eternal bless you and protect you. May the Eternal smile on you and favour you. May the Eternal befriend you and prosper you. And may we carry this song, let's sing it, of the Eternal with us. And may we do so in all that we feel, in all that we think, in all that we say, in all that we do. Go in love, go in peace. Amen.